I'm so excited to introduce our guest speakers, Cregeen and Paul Bin, who will bring a wealth of knowledge and experience to this discussion today. So Paul is a pragmatic business analyst with over 20 years of experience in business and system analysis in various industries, including financial services, container shipping, health and safety, emergency services, defense force, and postal services. He's a strong advocate for building the business analysis community through mentoring, training, public speaking, and his involvement with the International Institution of Business Analysis. Paul is passionate about helping business analysis mature into well-rounded and capable professionals. Another guest, Phil, is a professional consulting analyst with over 25 years of IT experience. He's worked in various areas of business analysis, including service design, product owner, business consulting, cloud services. Phil is a bridge between the business product engineering teams and has a passion for implementing agile projects and working in complex environments. He obtained his certified business analysis professional qualification in 2015 and served as the past president of the New Zealand International Institute of Business Analysis. So welcome, Paul and Ben. Both they have combined over 50 years of experience to share tonight. Maybe let's start with Paul. For you. It looks like you've been working in various industries with very wide range of different cover a wide range of different categories. So how did you connect all the dots together and land in BA career? What's been working for you throughout the journey to make it successful?
Well, I mean, first of all, I mean, I grew up in the financial world. So most of my career was spent in the financial world, and then when I started to move into different areas, it's at the end of the day, it's kind of got to you've got to know your craft. You've got to understand how to apply what you've learned. So I bring a lot of stuff that I've learned in the banking and investment world, that things that I've learned there that I've brought across and I use in his world. And it really comes down to just being able to connect those dots by saying, this is what I know from here. And if I adjust it slightly, I can apply it here. And it's just relying on your knowledge and building your knowledge. That's the important thing. And that I think is if there's anything you want to take away today, is that when you're in this career, it's not a case of those of you who do your masters of certificate, and once you've got your masters, that hey, that's it, you've arrived, and you've you don't need to study more. Any career, not just business, is lifelong learning, and when you're doing that, you are learning and growing and being able to apply it into different scenarios.
Cool. Every bit counts. Life is a learning journey, never stops.
Yeah.
And Phil, I can also see from your career history that you started with a very tech-focused job and then transitioned into BA. So what made you make that move, and how your past experience has been working well for you, contributed to your transition successfully?
Yeah, thank you, Lynn. Thank you for inviting me as well. Yeah, so much like Paul, you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not originally from New Zealand, but I, like a lot of us, we move into business analysis from other jobs. So it's very rare that you meet a business analyst, trained to be a business analyst, and became a business analyst and stayed a business analyst. There's also the word business analysis as well. It's such a misnomer because it, that incorporates so many job titles. It's almost a joke. It's a joke title really amongst BAs to call them BAs, because the analysis industry is so wide and so deep, and it can apply to in so many different situations. But for me, I studied as a developer. Like I retrained years ago. I did an MSc in, I did a master's in information technology, and what I realized was it was the learning that I really enjoyed. I really love learning new things. And I thought, what industry gives me that, and that was how I kind of got into that track in the first place. But what sort of really what really kind of got me into business analysis was I was being attracted more by the business need than the coding that I was doing. So I found I was more interested in how does this work? Why do you need it like this? Why are you asking me those things? Those things were not being asked by the people around me. So that's how I became attracted to business analysis. But what actually happened was when I moved to New Zealand, I was a capability lead at MSD, Ministry of Social Development, and at the time I was expected to be in charge or to represent the needs of all the BAs, and that's how I got into doing certification, and I got on that whole track because I was in charge of 50 odd BAs. So that was kind of how it sort of worked for me. So that's how I arrived. But in terms of what's worked for me or what's been successful for me, planning has been the big difference in my life. The biggest difference between what I did and what a lot of my peers didn't do was they didn't plan their career. They didn't sit down and think, where do I need to be in 2 to 3 years' time? And they, what happens is if you outsource your career to other people, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. I just mean if you're working in an organization and you've got we've all got bosses, we've all got people that we do our year plan where we say where we want to be in a year's time or whatever. But those people aren't always as motivated to make you grow your career as you would be yourself. So the big difference was I took control of my career where other people maybe didn't.
Yeah. I just want to add to what Phil was saying, and is spot on about planning your career and taking ownership of it. Don't wait around for your boss to pay for a course you want to do. Don't wait for your boss to tell you what skills you go and figure that out and know what you want to do. But I also want to put something out, and it just shows the difference between Phil and me. Either of us is any better than the other. But Phil came through from an IT background. I didn't. I came through as a bank teller. I had no IT background. And I think it's important to understand is that there are different avenues into business analysis. You don't have to be in IT, and you don't have to be an IT person to be a business analyst.
Yeah, exactly. That really assured me as well, because from my personal experience, I have absolutely no IT background or knowledge. And my work experience would probably have nothing to do with business analyst at all. But so far, I've learned what is BA. I've matched my interests and my existing skills. I've learned how to map them with the requirements from a BA from Lizzie's talk last week. And that was really useful. And now I decided, yes, I'm in it. I quite like it. I think I will be a good fit for it. However, I do not have any background, practical experience as a BA. So now I come to a stage that, I will need a more practical and maybe a more structured and solid plan for my career transition. So what advice would you give to people like me? And I believe there are lots of people in our room tonight that are aspiring BA who already have a clear idea that they definitely want to go this path. However, lack of a kind of like a structured plan. So what advice would you give to people like us? How do you get started?
Or you go. You want me to go first, or do you want? So the first thing I want to address is just your statement that you don't have a BA background, and you probably haven't got BA experience. And I want to say you probably have, because BA skills are found in just about every job. So don't underestimate the skills that you do have and how they are transferable into business analysis. A good friend of Sophie's and mine, Teresa, came from a hospitality industry. And she's now a very good BA at ACC. So don't underestimate what you do know from other jobs. In terms of, planning your career, and answering your question is that, and I think it starts off just by what I was just saying, is it's understanding what skills you have that are transferable into business analysis. And then it's also understanding what is the gap between where you need to be, especially if you want to get your first job, understanding how you can translate your experiences into business analysis. Because when you go for the job interview, they're going to want to see, not that you say, hey, I know how to do stakeholder analysis, but they will want to see and know and have examples of how you've done that. Now, stakeholder analysis is probably something that a lot of people do in their jobs that they don't really think it through, but they're actually doing it when they're starting to see who actually is who in the office and who's the ones that got the decision-making power. I mean, that's the basis of stakeholder analysis. So it's first understanding what skills you got. The second, finding your gap. Now, to find your gap, you obviously need to know something about business analysis. And whether you decide to read BABOK, whether you decide to do a course, or even just read a book like this book. Sorry, just realized this book. Can you all see it? 7 Steps to Mastering Business Analysis. That sits on my desk. Even with all my years' experience, I still go to this sometimes when I'm looking for inspiration. But if you really want to understand business analysis and you want to develop a career, you've got to understand kind of what it entails and look at the tasks you're doing as a business. Look at your career that you've done in the past, even if you've been a barista. One example, barista, they communicate with people. Communicate is a big thing about in business analysis. So, and then finding where those gaps are of what you want to build. So, for instance, you might have to learn some of the stakeholder analysis we use. You might need to learn some of the process modeling tools you need, etc. But yeah, it's just really understand where you are, understand where you need to be, do your gap analysis, and you've got your gap analysis, is decide or find out how and work out a plan on how you're going to close those gaps. And one as well that I can leave you with is that don't wait until you're in a BA role to practice business analysis. You can start practicing business analysis where you are, whether you're sitting in the call center, whether you are translator, language translator, or whatever. You can actually start practicing some of these skills in your current job. Only you, Phil.
Do you have anything to add, Phil?
Yeah, I mean, I Paul and I see eye to eye on most of this stuff because we collaborate on a lot of this stuff. But I mean, what I would add is certainly getting certified. And I don't mean certified as a IIBA. It doesn't have to be IIBA. It can be PMI. Can be any, like, you get a foundation in something. Even if you want to be a product owner, if it's a BA, hell, if you like artificial intelligence prompt engineer, do you know what I mean? Like this is probably where we're going. That probably will be a career in 5 years' time. So part of what you're doing is you're trying to get a foundation in something to give yourself a point of reference, so you're able to kind of you understand what you need. Then you understand the breadth of what you're trying to achieve in as a business analyst or a product owner or whatever it is. And then, as Paul was saying, that gap analysis is important. So when you do your plan, you do an audit of your own skills, and you be brutally honest about yourself. You say, okay, I have done this, I have done that. Have I elicited requirements? Maybe not. Have I run a workshop with 30 people in it? Probably not. But you know, you'll get that with time. And what all you're trying to do is basically get your foot through the door the first time, you know. So which kind of brings you on to, you know, your CV and what that means to do your CV. So for me, for example, I couldn't understand when I first arrived, because I had all these programming skills. I couldn't understand why I wasn't this amazing BA, you know, but it's just because they're not looking for those skills, you know. So what you've got to do is, in your CV, you've got to try and make your CV look like a pure BA CV or a pure product owner CV. You can have different versions of your CV as well. You know, you can have an agile version of it. You can, you know, there's different. People often have 2 or 3 different versions of their CV. And you know what's important is that you come up with a way of sort of cataloging your experience in a way that people know that you're a BA just by reading your CV. You know, you're sort of, what you're trying to do is remove the reasons for recruiters or organizations like people, you know, HR people, to chuck you in the bin. And that takes some time, you know, because in most recruitment offices, they'll throw away, you know, half the CVs will go in the bin before they've even decided on the short list that they're going to go through. And they deliberately, you know, they go through the ones that they can clearly just get rid of straight away. So what you've got to do, the way I sort of, when I realized this, what I did was I removed the reasons to be thrown in the bin, if that makes sense.
Okay.
It's brutal, isn't it? It's absolutely brutal. And I tell you the way they do it. They do it with buzzword bingo. So they work out all the BA type words that you would need, or all the product owner type words, and they find reasons to try and throw it in a bin. It's absolutely brutal, the process. But when you're handed 50 CVs and you've got to come up with a candidate within that week, and that includes interviewing them and shortlisting them and coming up with an answer, that's why they do it like that. You know, they go out to 3 recruiters or something, and they'll say, give me, you know, 5 CVs each, and then they'll just do that. They'll just be brutally honest with each CV as they go through it.
Mm. Just to add to the CV, if I may, to jump in quickly. So in my coaching, the thing that I come across a lot is people trying to break into their first BA career, and CV reads like all of their past jobs, not the experience that they can use in a BA role. So we're not saying here your CV should lie, but you say, I worked in a hotel, you know, and you give a job role, but you wanted to read and highlight the tasks and the skills that you've used in that role that are relevant to business analysis. And that's why it's important. If you haven't got the skill to write a CV, invest the money in yourself to get it done. It's not cheap. You know, I think the one company that I always use in
recording stopped.
Ooh. Was it my voice?
Progress.
How did enough for you, Paul?
No, that might be ChatGPT coming in.
Perfect.
No,
it's all good now.
Yeah. And it also with your CV is your LinkedIn profile. They must match and they must be done professionally. The keywords are just important on your LinkedIn profile as it is on your CV. It's going to cost you about $500 to do both properly. So if you don't have the skill, if you don't have the time, get it done properly. That $500, I was actually coaching someone yesterday and we were talking through this. And I was trying to illustrate that $500 investment in yourself could mean an 80,000 plus job per, 80 plus salary per year. $500 to earn 80 plus salary. So it's a small investment in your future.
Yeah, I was gonna say that investment, that the invest and the yield ratio is very.
Yeah.
Investment. You are an investment as well. You are an investment. That's the way you have to look in your career. You are an investment, and the more you invest in yourself, and that doesn't necessarily mean spending heaps of money either. It means taking the time to make like working on you, the best version of you.
Exactly. Never be mean to yourself. Definitely.
Exactly. Well,
the biggest asset to invest.
Absolutely. Yep. Be nice to yourself.
Yes, Phil, be nice to me.
So I learned from both of your CV that you both were involved in the what is called International Institution of Business Analysis.
Yeah.
How does that experience help you or help anyone that may want to transition into BA career? What kind of resources are there available to help?
You want to go first, Phil?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So the way you often hear people phrase this question when people ask you this is they say, is it better to get practical experience or a certification? And the reality is that they're not mutually exclusive. Like you do both generally. Practical experience will always beat any certification, right? If you're an absolutely kick-ass BA and you've got a qualification, brilliant. But they'll be looking at your experience. They won't be saying, oh, I see you did, you were involved in the IIBA or something like that. But what I've found is that those stepping up and doing that type of thing gives you a maturity that you don't get if you don't step up and try and do that sometimes. First of all, it builds a mature network of people all around the world. So if you do a PMI qualification or whatever, and you go to the States, for example, then you might turn up at a PMI conference, for example, or you might meet like-minded other BAs in that place. So if you're starting a new career somewhere else, you've already got an automatic sort of network in these places. So that's the first thing. It's a network outside of your own organization. The second thing was I used to think of it a bit like a defensive driving test. It was sort of like practicing some of these things, and also people sort of challenge you with some of the things that you learn. You don't always agree with stuff that you're learning, but the more you learn about it and the more you talk about it and the more you realize, like the BABOK, for example, BA body of knowledge. It's written by about 3,000 people. So, by the time it actually gets out, it's like a brick, it's 550 pages, I think, last time I read it for an awful long time. But it's a big chunky document. I think so much in there that there's a lot of value in there. There's a lot of things that I think wider than the BABOK now. I think the BABOK's very good at quantitative type analysis. I'm not so sure how good it is with the qualitative stuff, but it is what it is. It was written when it was written, and it's very deep and it's very wide. And for some people, that's what they need, particularly when you're doing foundation or something. But I think particularly when you start like at an entry level, it's probably too much to try and read the BABOK straight. You can't read that book from cover to cover. You'd go outside and hit yourself with a brick. It's just so much of it.
So people who don't have BA practical work experience at all, is it easy to understand? Are the theory, pretty much all the theories that if you don't utilize at all, you may not be able to get your head around what are you talking about?
Well, let me give you an example. So we were talking before about a CV, for example, right? Now, I modeled my CV on the tasks in the BABOK. That was how I determined what a BA should look like. And then I audited my work experience, and I applied it sort of in patterns to what the tasks are in the BABOK. And what that meant was I was able to give a very clear idea of the business analysis aspects of what I did, even when I wasn't a business analyst before. You see what Paul was saying before? Because I started as a developer, right? So I had to come up with stuff that I was doing as a developer that had BA work. The business analyst is a role. It's a role that you play, so you can play that role as another job. As Paul was saying earlier, customer services rep, or call center, or people that probably not so much a barista, but more like a marketing guy or salesperson or finance. Each of these careers have business analysis tasks built into them. BA is a very analytical role, and you're always on a, you can either be super high level, from a business perspective, or you could be super deep in terms of a data scientist and AI modeler, and the whole world in between there of what you can and can't do. And most people have got somewhere on that continuum, they've done those tasks already. They've got lots of knowledge in lots of those areas.
So from my point of view, I agree with everything that Phil says. There's a couple of things that I would add to it. And I mean, if we talk about certification, I think you need to be very clear as to why you want to do it. Particularly if you are looking at ECBA. So for example, if you are not in a business role and you want to do ECBA to get an ECBA job, it's probably not going to be as effective, because just remember, the ECBA you can write without any experience, whereas the other two you've got to show years of experience, and that's why they become a little bit more valuable than the ECBA. The ECBA I would use in a scenario where maybe I've just got into a role as a BA and I want to learn business analysis, or I want to understand business analysis. But as Phil said, the BABOK is one of those things that will put you to sleep very easily. It's not an easy read. And so I mean, that book I showed you earlier, I mean, if you want to learn about business, I'll probably read something like that. That book does reference the BABOK as well, so you can actually get the two together. CBAP, I've got my CBAP. Phil's got his CBAP. I didn't do my CBAP until about 4 years ago, but I only did it because of the kind of pathway my career was going, and I did it really to get some more street cred behind my name, in terms of when I am sort of talking to people, I've got something behind me, say, listen, I've got some experience, because the CBAP actually proves I've got 7,500 hours of BA experience. I think that's the amount. Yeah,
many years.
Yeah. So it does give you some street cred from that point of view. In terms of my career, in terms of things like getting me a job, I don't know. I can't really answer and say yes or no. It does and it doesn't. But again, also, if you were in the United States and you were looking to work in the United States, this certification will probably do a lot for you, because the Americans like it. Not so much in New Zealand. Having said that, coming back to kind of really just looking through the stuff and doing like an ECBA. Let's just say you want to get some, you're in a non-BA role and you want to get some experience. Well, one strategy you can do is use something like the ECBA to understand sort of the different task areas. Get yourself into a study group, which will then help you understand the BABOK, because I think on your own, if you've got no background in business analysis, it is going to be hard to understand some of these concepts and some of the stuff, and get that done. One thing I do want to say about the BABOK, and this accounts especially for ECBA, The BAPIC is not going to teach you how to do a process flow diagram. It's not going to teach you how to do a workshop. It's going to tell you when you would use a workshop, and it's going to tell you when you would use a process flow, but it won't teach you that. So just to keep that in mind. It's teaching you the framework, but it's not teaching how to do certain things. So you've got to keep that in mind, because when it comes to experience, that is where where you actually know how to do something and you put it into practice. That's where that comes into. So just, I think the takeaway from me here is after all that big waffle for me, it's if you're going to do your certification, do it for the right reason.
Yeah, I think for me, it was like, because, nowadays there are so many online resources available, like LinkedIn, online learning, or Coursera, or many other platforms. They provide all sorts of short courses, including business analyst topic as well. So for anyone who does not absolutely have no knowledge of business analysis at all, can go to those resources and get it started first. And then when you get into learn the very basic stuff, then and then maybe we can start it to upskill our existing knowledge and the skills, and then use the BA mindset or system to apply to our own work or life, and kind of like do our own business analysis projects. And then when we might have more question about how does this work, how does that process work, and then refer to a book, kind of like the Bible of the business analysis, and then maybe it will be more helpful in a way that you have the real experience and real question, and then we can go to look for answers there. Well, thank you for sharing that tips. And also, I know, Paul, you're doing a lot of coaching, or called it mentorship. How do you think? What do you think of that? People, if they absolutely have no experience at all, they can look for some kind of like coaching help in a way to help them to build up their skills.
So I think, yeah. So I do quite a bit of that as part of my business. I think the important thing to say here is that there's a difference between coaching and mentorship. I combine the two because coaching is about, I don't give you the answers, but I help you find the answers. Mentorship is where I take my experience and I actually show you the way and how to do it. Now, the reason why I combine that is because people that come to me for coaching, invariably they want me to help them with the answer. In other words, they want me to give my insights. So I've learned that for my business and for what I do, the combination of those two is important. So why would I do coaching and mentorship? So coaching, because I do believe that if you want to take ownership of your career and you want to take ownership of your development, then you actually need to find some of your answers yourself. You can't rely on someone else all the time to give it to you. And it's probably a big lesson for you as a business analyst, because as you go further in your career and you become more independent, your boss is not going to be there to hold your hand. You've got to learn to be independent and find the answers yourself. So it's a good thing to start learning that early on. And the mentorship, because, and Phil probably, hopefully, agree with me, I've made, and probably Phil as well, I've made a lot of mistakes in my career. So I can bring up that knowledge of what not to do, and I've done some stuff that's worked very well. So I bring that as well. But unfortunately, I think most people are like my 19-year-old daughter that doesn't want to be told, this is how we did it back in our day. But anyway, it's a whole different story. So yeah, I developed a value blueprint that I use in my coaching, and it's a way we talked earlier about how do we find our skills, and this is what I do in my coaching is where I look at your past jobs and I work with you, and I use some of the BAP for that as well, to find what you do and what you have done in the past and what skills you have got, and then we work out the gap and we work out the roadmap for you to go forward. And then part of that as well is also inclusive is when we get to actually looking for jobs, how do we build that strategy, that plan? It's not a case of going to seek.com or Indeed or wherever you want to look and just clicking a button and saying, right, there's a job, attach my CV, send it off. There's a lot of work before you actually send that CV and that cover letter to an organization. And so that's what I kind of help people to do.
Right. Do you have any final tips on a more structured way to transit to the BA career?
Shall I go?
Yeah, go for it. I've talked too much.
Yeah, I think for me personally, because we can only relate it personally, right? For me, I think what's important is to get like I was saying, get a foundation. To find a foundation in something, find your sort of happy spot, and then to kind of work out from, to bolt on other skills from there. So that could be learning online, it could be in-person stuff, it could be mentorship at work. Don't underestimate skills that you can learn at work, because there's heaps you can learn off of lots of other people at work. Yeah. Don't be afraid to ask people for help, because most people in IT, they were there just like you were once, and they understand that, and they're willing to to dip in and help you. Back yourself. Like this is the thing. Like what you've got to do is, like Paul was saying, you've got to back yourself. You've got to say, I can do this. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And particularly if you do get your foot in the door in an internship or a graduate scheme or something like that, really make it count. Really be that one that really sort of show willing and be the person who's really trying to make a difference, because it will get noticed, and you're more likely to be the one that's picked. Like if it came down to we've got 5 grads and we're taking on 2, then you probably will be one of the 2 that they'll pick. And another thing is, if I could give you another tip, try new things and look ahead. See what's kind of coming down the funnel. This looking ahead is part of your career. You've got to assess what's happening in the future. You've got to say, to some extent, you've got to take a gamble on things. You've got to learn new stuff, and sometimes it doesn't always work out. I've been a developer and I've learned whole new languages that were canned, like 3 months later, and it's absolutely soul destroying. And thank goodness it's not as bad as that anymore in business analysis, but there's still stuff that you learn as a BA that kind of falls by the wayside, or is not as important anymore. There's you just back yourself. Treat yourself as a professional, even when you're not a professional BA. Like, treat it professionally, because people notice these things, and you're more likely to be taken on if you come over in a professional way.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I was going to add to that, if I may. Yeah, totally agree with that. The confidence is a big thing. No, I'm naturally an introvert. So when you see me talking like this, that it takes a lot of energy for me to do that. So what I'm saying by that, it is possible. But after this, I'll go and I'll sit in a corner and recharge my batteries. But yeah, so confidence is really good. another tip that I kind of want to give you as well is, sorry, it just slipped right out of my mind. Sorry, it was this. Get comfortable talking about yourself. Because when it comes to an interview, and this is a lesson my late father taught me many years ago. He said, when you go to an interview, you like a packet of Omo washing powder on the shelf. You need to sell yourself, and you need to sell why you're the right person for that job. So you've got to get comfortable talking about yourself. To give you an example, I interviewed someone for a role about 2 years ago, and this person, when I asked questions, their voice was quiet. They didn't make eye contact with us. And most of the questions they didn't answer. They said, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know." Now, you could see kind of like they weren't comfortable talking about themselves. And I actually caught up with this person about a couple of days later. So I took him out and I said to him, "Let's have coffee. Let me talk you through what went wrong for you and help you." And he said, like, I just didn't feel comfortable talking about myself. So yeah, learn to talk comfortable, be comfortable about yourself. Fun tip for an interview. If you get an interview question and they ask you a question, have you had experience in doing X? And you haven't. It's not, don't answer and say, no, I haven't, and leave it there. What you do is you answer the question, no, I haven't. But if I was in that situation, this is how I might handle it. Because what you're showing to the interviewer, first of all, that you've got some ability to think things through, to process things, and did you able to apply past knowledge into a particular situation. And it also gives you opportunity to talk about yourself. So don't say no and then leave it there. Actually, just try to answer the question as best as you can, but acknowledge that you haven't got that experience. I'll keep quiet now.
It sounds like all the confidence have to come from the daily accumulation of either the industry knowledge or the basic business analyst terms or terminology. So I think one of the ways that we really can get ourselves into learning the industry knowledge, so we can be prepared to talk about stuff with confidence. Could you share some of the ways to how to get yourself into kind of like immerse yourself into the industry? Some of the ways that you can do that. Maybe can try the opportunity to go to webinars, forums, online conference. What are the ways that we could do?
Sorry, I miss the base question.
I can have a go answering that, Lynn. Yeah. So basically, what I would suggest as a new BA is you need to kind of understand what's expected of the BA. You know, when you go in the door, what they kind of expect of you. And part of that, like we were saying before, you either get that through a certification, you might get it from reading books, you might get it from talking to other BAs, mature BAs that do it on a regular basis. There's not, like we were saying before, there's no one book or one user guide where you're going to get it all. You know, Babok's probably it's a good example of like really deeply written knowledge of stuff, but it's probably not a user-friendly way to understand what a BA does. Do you know what I mean? It's not a pamphlet that you can just kind of flick through and go, oh, I'll do that tomorrow, you know. But I think the best way is, I mean, obviously one of the quickest ways is to get a mentor, you know, like that's obviously a quick shortcut to get somebody who can put you on the right track straight away, and also notice things in your CV or gaps that might be missing, or push you down certain roads to help you bolster up certain parts of your CV or parts of your career that maybe you don't have heaps of knowledge of. there's a number of ways that you can do it, you know, and I think it really comes down to how much you want to be a BA or a product owner or an AI prompt engineer or whatever you want to be. Like it's kind of incumbent on you to go and find those things. But absolutely, like going, you know, checking out webinars, come to our conference, for example. That's, you know, all right, I'm plugging our conference, but that's a great way to learn how to become a BA. That's exactly why we've put the conference on, for exactly that purpose, to bring in people that don't always have all those skills and careers, and also to bring in diversity. Lots of people from all around the world that can talk to their careers or can talk to certain aspects of the job. You know, we've got people doing like a jobs to be done workshop, for example. Now, jobs to be done was never a technique that I learned when I was doing my BABOK. It wasn't even around. It hadn't even been invented, I don't think, back then. But because the industry moves on and because there's new things all the time, isn't it great? Isn't it great to keep learning? Isn't it wonderful to have a career where it doesn't stop and where you can learn a new thing and get a brand new understanding of something completely different? I love it about this job. You know, that's why I get up in the morning. I couldn't do that's, you know, I don't know if you saw my CV earlier on, but I started as a quantity surveyor and it bored the life out of me. So, you know, like there's a reason why you go into certain careers, and IT is all about the learning. It's all about the new. It's all about the future, you know, and the future is AI, obviously.
I think many people can resonate with that because they get so bored of the current job, and there's no way to progress or just have no interest to progress anymore. So yeah. IIBA is very interesting and ever challenging role that will keep you moving forward all the time.
But as we said, as we were saying before, Lynn, the more you take control of your own career, the more you surround yourself with interesting people, and the more you learn where the future's going, and you put yourself in that position that you're ahead of the curve. You know, you're going to get there. You're going to be the one at the forefront of it, not at the one, you know, 2 years behind, waiting to do the course that, you know, someone to pay for you to go on it. Like, that's the whole point. Is if you take your career by the scruff of the neck, you're going to have a much more interesting career as a result, because you're going to be more energized to do the things that you want to do every day.
Yeah, I'll just add a few things to that, and I'll be short and sweet this time, I promise. So yeah, like I said in the beginning, I was a bank teller. I studied to be a financial law accountant, wrote my final paper, mergers and acquisitions, said never, ever, ever will I do that career. And I ended up as a bank teller. I then volunteered for a project, and I stepped into the BA role from that. Back then, I was a very, very quiet, introverted person. And those who are on the line from South Africa that know me will hopefully be able to attest to that. But yeah, so I had to learn to step out. I had to learn confidence, and a couple of things that you can do. Number one, step out your comfort zone. You know, really kind of put your hand up for stuff, volunteer for stuff, get out there and do stuff.
I'll definitely back that one. That's a really good one. Get out of your comfort zone. That's a really good one to learn to become a kick-ass BA. Get out of the comfort zone. That's a really good one to really, like, because you're thrown in at the deep end as a BA, and that's a really good piece of advice. Yeah,
and even when you're as a BA, I mean, if your manager says, "Hey, can you do a capability matrix for me on X, Y, and Z?" And you've never done, say, look, be honest, say, like, you know, I haven't done, but don't worry, I'll figure it out and go. And off you go, and you do whatever you need to in order to learn how to do it. So yeah, step out of comfort zone. Secondly, I hated public speaking. I was the kid at school. Whenever we had to do orals, I'd be one in the back waiting and hoping that I was the last one to go, or even get forgotten, hopefully, and never do. Now I speak at conferences, I go on webinars. How did I do that? Again, I stepped out of my comfort zone. I did some Toastmasters. I learned how to do some public speaking. I got confident in my ability. I don't consider myself the brilliant public speaker, but I can stand up and not feel my knees knocking together in nervousness when I get up and speak, because I've just built that confidence. And then Sophie's got Toastmasters in already. I don't Toastmaster anymore. I don't have the time. Folk keeps me busy.
You have enough events to go to practice your public speaking.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I didn't do the entire Toastmasters. I just did enough for what I wanted. So yeah, I mean, you can do that.
Awesome. Speaking of public speaking and conferences, I know there is a conference coming up at the end of March. Paul, you want to tell us more about it?
Yeah. So Phil and I, like we said earlier, we've got 50 years experience together in the industry, but part of that experience is actually as volunteers and as on the board of the IIBA New Zealand chapter. And between us, we've got a lot of experience in running conferences. I've done a couple in South Africa for the IIBA there, and I've done for here as well. And we kind of felt that there was a need to build a skills-based kind of conference, and that's what we kind of tried to achieve in this conference. So all of our presenters, we've got 15 presenters in total. Sophie and Greg, I don't know if Greg's online, but Sophie and Greg are running one of our workshops, how to ask good questions. We've talked about Jack, who's going to be doing the jobs to be done theory stuff, and our other speakers that will be on, they will be delivering their knowledge on how to do different skills. So we've got things around MVP, we've got things around wireframing, we've got talks around from Abinia from Australia, and she's going to be talking about the Agile BA and PO, that it's about the goals, not the roles. So she'll give a lot of insight. So yeah, so really, really, really looking forward to it. Go online and book. I think my
recording stopped.
What's going on?
Am I still there? Because my whole
Recording in progress.
My whole laptop blinked there. Are you still there?
Yeah. Was it just?
It just like died and then came back on.
Oh. Am I off as well?
No, you are. You're on. I'm on. Oh, I can hear it. Okay, cool. Okay.
Pause back.
Okay, cool. Sorry. So yeah, so we there you can see there's a code on the screen. We're giving all of the attendees a discount price. Our price point is low because we want people to come and learn skills and be the business analysts of the future.
The date is the 31st of March, 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. the whole day.
Yeah.
Workshop.
And it's online.
Yeah, it's online. Yeah, it's an online or fully online. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and not to forget, we've got a couple of nice prizes from our sponsors.
Yeah.
So if you go and look at the IIBA website, you will notice the numerous. Am I back? There we go. So yeah, so there are numerous pathways after business analysis. Business architecture is one of those things, and it's one of those career choices that we are seeing starting to build up. That and cybersecurity, those two. So yeah, we are sponsor Agora Insights. They're sponsoring a business architecture course. They're also sponsoring a business analysis pathway course as well. And then one of our speakers, him and his partner are an author, and they authored the book called The Brainy Glue, which is actually a novel about business analysis, but it's written whilst it's a novel, it's written in a way that gives you a lot of insight into business analysis. Really, really, really great. So that will be giving us 13, and I say legal PDFs because people have been asking me, is the PDF legal? Yes, it is, because it's straight from the author, and the reason why we're doing the PDFs is because the price of the book is quite expensive in New Zealand. So yeah, there's some great prizes there coming through as well.
Great, looking forward to this whole day conference. There must be a lot more valuable insights that we can get from. So pretty much in summary, I think we can have a clear picture or pathway for who's aspiring BA transition into a BA. So we can start with identify the transferable skills. Do not be too humble. We all have very valuable skills that we get from our current job. We can map them with the requirements of the BA and identify the gap and then try to close the gap. We can either get certified or get some study or try to go to more conference or online events like this and get more insight and knowledge from the experts like Phil and Paul. Create a great networking opportunity for yourself as well. And very importantly as well, can try to get more practical experience to build up a more either your portfolio or some of the projects that will really showcase your BA core skills. And also, very importantly as well, to tailor your resume, your CV, and your cover letter to the job that you're applying for. Do not just use the generic one. Really showcase your skills, how you demonstrate you can help the business solve a problem, be it as a business analyst. Great, thank you so much. Oh, also one very important step as well. You can also seek a mentorship or find a coach to coach you through to polish your skills as well, or help to polish your CV writing. Did I miss anything?
With that summary, Lynn, you'd make an awesome BA. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I think absolutely 100%. That's exactly what BAs do. They listen, they understand, and they turn that into a ChatGPT couldn't have done a better job than that if it had been writing it. So well done.
So Lynn, are you out your comfort zone right now?
I think so, because everyone needs get comfortable to talk about yourself. In the future, you will be a kick-ass BA. That's my biggest takeaway. Cool. I think now we can progress to our Q&A session. Wow, we have quite a few questions already. Let's see, what's the burning questions on the top? Building relationship is a crucial skill for business analysts. So what are your tips and tricks for building good relationships with stakeholders? Who want to start?
We'll go with that one. Short and sweet answer is first recognize that everyone connects in different and builds relationships differently. Building relationships is extremely important in business analysis. In fact, just about every employer that I speak to says, I'm more interested in the relationships and the ability to get on with people than I am in your ability to create a process diagram. So my tip for you, and what works well for me, is find the connection between you and someone else. What is the common ground that you can work on between the two of you and build your relationship on that? Don't sweat the stuff that you disagree on. Build the common stuff and build a relationship from there.
Great. Next one. What specific tasks can we pick up to practice BA skills in the non-BA job?
Shall I do that one? I'll do the nice easy one, shall I?
I might jump. I might jump in if Phil doesn't say what I want to listen.
How do you practice those skills? Well, I've got my own rules around this. So I always think if you don't do the skill professionally, if you don't actually do it in a work capacity, then I don't put it on my CV. Now, that's just a rule that I have. That's not necessarily a rule that other people do. But in terms of how do you practice those skills, I mean, first of all, there are things that you probably do already, like you probably facilitate people in a room, for example. There's a lot of jobs have situations, particularly team leaders, particularly if you have to present to a bunch of people. It takes guts to do that, and particularly the first time you do it, it's kind of unnerving, like when you have to stand up in front of a group of people. And just like Paul, I was really shy when I was at school as well. I remember actually trembling once when I was doing a presentation, at school. And so you've got to learn to get over that. You've got to learn to control yourself. But in terms of other skills that you might do, I mean, one thing I've really understood, particularly in product ownership, actually, the best product owners are generally people that at some time have had to do some public speaking, or have been up in front of an audience. So sometimes you get ex-actors. I've known other product owners that did. One of them worked in the Guinness factory in Ireland, and they were taking people on guided tours. I know another really good product owner that worked at Wellington Hospital and showed people round the different departments. Now, these things seem really random and arbitrary, but they're not, because what they teach you to do is, one, they teach you to listen, and two, they teach you to really understand and empathize with people, and also to talk to a group of people. It's a really important skill as a BA to be able to control, or not control, but to be able to work with a group of people to get an outcome, because that's effectively what facilitation is, right? And a big part of what you do as a BA is trying to facilitate outcomes between different points in time, So there's also, I have this other thing where a sort of tip from me is, when I turn up to work, I try and be the sort of person I would like to work with myself. So, if that's my test for me. So if I think that if I think I've been short or not been given someone enough time, or I'd have a conversation with myself afterwards, and I'd say, well, how would you feel if that was you, in that situation? How would you probably wouldn't be happy, would you? So, I think it's a good test to do. Like, treat people as you expect to be treated yourself. I think that's the common phrase, isn't it?
Awesome. Thank you for your answer. Yeah, I think communication is one of the core competencies for a successful BA, and by empathetic listening and active listening.
Yes,
that's the first step to communicate well, understand people well.
Can I just add to Phil? Totally agree with Phil. Everything that's funny add. So go back to kind of how I got into business that I mentioned earlier. I volunteered for a project. I didn't know what I was doing it back then. I afterwards realized, hey, I was actually doing a BA role. But anyway, what I want to say to you is that great way to learn a skill. For instance, and I use an example on this. Let's just say that you want to learn how to do a process model. So you go and learn, you go figure out all of how it works, and you're sitting in the office and take one of the processes that you use in office and start to map it out. Start to think of what are some of the rules and the business rules that you use around that process. If you want to add another skill onto that, facilitate a workshop where you get your whole team to do that. And it'd be nice if you can get your manager on board to do that, and then facilitate your team to actually find ways that you could probably improve that process. You don't need to wait around for your department to get a BA to come in and do it. Do it yourself.
Yeah, that's good. Absolutely. Start once you learn what a BA does, once you've spoken to people about what BAs do, have a go at it, have a crack at it. And that's the way to learn it, is to do it.
Cool.
Just to be brave and do it.
Yeah, just say to yourself, come on, I'm going to do this now. I'm going to do a process map, or I'm going to do, and if you don't know how to do it, Google it. It's pretty simple. Yes.
Or ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So the next question we have is from Anik. Sorry if I pronounce it wrong. As per the current market, does the BA needs to transition himself to SAP PA or Salesforce BA because it becomes very specific?
Oh, can I answer this one? Please.
Please, thank you.
Yeah, okay. So I get very well, I'm picking the words very carefully now. I don't like it. Let me put it that way. I don't like when people label BAs. I'm a Salesforce BA. I'm a Dynamics BA. I am this BA. Because at the end of the day, the baseline skills of BA doesn't change. Where I see something like Salesforce and SAP, it's a knowledge area that you bring into a knowledge area that you specialize in, that you can get in. But as that question states there, it becomes very specific. In my opinion, is that you're probably going to narrow down your employability. Yes, at the moment, Salesforce is big. Yes, at the moment, SAP is big. But these systems, these solutions, these one-stop shops do have a tendency at some point to wane off, and the next best thing comes in. So by all means, get involved in it, but don't limit yourself, because the BA career is so wide. Take you back to the intro that Lynn did for me. I've worked in shipping, I've worked in finance, I've worked in stock markets, I've worked in health boards. Had I started to specialize myself in something, I would not have had opportunity to work in all those different areas. Now, having said that, if you want to specialize, by all means, go for it. This is your career. You own it. I have chosen not to, because I want to have as broad a career in different industries and different ways, and working with different types of projects as I can.
Great. Thanks a lot, Paul. Exactly, I was expecting for the answer which I wanted. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you go down, I mean, if you do a certification like the IIBA, the way they would answer that question is that sort of like a cement truck going past. The way you'd answer that would, you'd say, you define your requirement before you apportion a solution to it, right? So you identify all your requirements up front, long before you even think about solution. So Salesforce and SAP are implementation specific, so they would have a certain way that they would implement things, because they're kind of development jigsaw puzzles, right? There's they join together in a certain way. But if you were to work for a ministry, for example, where there's an awful lot of Salesforce work at the moment, they still have to talk to legacy systems. They still have to connect to other things. So you might miss requirements. If you don't define the requirements first, there's a danger that you're going to miss a big part of what you need.
It is a good point. And just to add to that, what Phil's talking about, we want to look at the requirements before we look at the solution. The danger of when you come through a solution mindset into eliciting requirements is that you start to narrow down your viewpoint. And when you're starting out and you're in that discovery phase, you want to go as broad as you can to make sure you capture as much as you can. So it is a bit of a tricky one, because if you are Salesforce, say, for instance, a Salesforce BA, for you to step out of that and take that hat off and think as a pure BA, it becomes very, very difficult.
Yeah, it's a good question though, Annika, because I'm sure lots of people you know, have similar sort of questions and things. There was 4 likes, for example. So it just goes to show, you know, that clearly is an important question.
Yeah.
Thanks for your insights. Next question we have Paul and Phil. Would you be able to list the 5 skills an aspiring BA need to acquainted to start with? We talk about this quite a lot.
There is a lot. Shall I answer this one, Paul?
You can. I just posted my blog in the chat if anyone wants to look at.
Yeah. So I you know, personally, I mean, one of the most important skills is actually a technique. You know, writing user stories is a big thing as a BA, right? You spend a lot of time writing stories, putting them into backlogs and writing acceptance criteria and stuff like that. So that's something that you could learn as an agile BA. I think most BAs are in agile teams these days. So that's certainly something that as a skill or a technique, that's something that you really can't avoid, and it's something to know about. Facilitation, again, as Paul was saying, you know, how to run a workshop, how to work a room, how to get people on side and to get an outcome through a workshop or whatever that might be. So that could be anything from affinity mapping, or it could be you know, doing interviews, or it could be you know, there could be any number of things that you might be doing in that workshop. But just get used to standing up in front of groups of people and work and getting requirements from them. I know that I see there's quite a lot of questions around sort of technical BA type questions as well, like you know, analysis type, you know, data warehousing type questions. And the answer to that is, you know, like, it doesn't hurt to go and learn SQL or data warehousing or things like that, because they'll become bolt-on skills, you know, as a BA, but they're probably not core skills that you need to start as a BA, you know. So, you know, I've often heard being a BA described as a translator, you know, so you're translating a business need into a solution. So, you know, could be, you know, from Mandarin to English, for example, you know. So if all you know is Mandarin, then your English isn't going to come out so well at the end, you know. So the more you understand about end to end, the more you're able to describe the need and apportion the solution to the problem, in my mind. So, you know, the more, what I'm saying is, if you do learn SQL, or if you do learn, you know, data analysis as well, it's not the first thing that you need as a BA, but it's really handy to know, because when you need to write reports, or when you need to go and actually look at the data, or if an architect puts you know, an entity relationship diagram, and you understand about databases and how they're connected together and that kind of thing, that's a really useful thing to be able to do.
Yeah, and I think it brings up a good point. I suppose the question is, at the beginning of your career, you know, should you kind of be more general, or should you specialize? And my personal feeling on that is that unless there's a really good reason for you to specialize because of your past background, that go for it. But I would start off kind of broad and kind of get, you know, different feeling for different things. And as your career goes on, so you kind of narrow it down, and you eventually get to this is the place where I feel not comfortable, which sounds strange because I just kept telling you get out of your comfort zone. But at some point, you've got to get back into it.
Yeah. Have we said 5 skills? I'm not sure if we've said 5.
Well, I posted my blog in there, and you know, for me, kind of it's really around the analytical skills, solving skills, being able to unpack a problem.
Yeah, problem identification.
Down to, you know, using things like 5 whys, fishbones, and root cause analysis, and all those kind of things. Be able to get down to the root cause of a problem, and really being able to work with those kind of techniques kind of well. Analytical skills is being able to take different pieces of information and start to link them together and say, okay, that comes in here, that comes in here, and oh wait, these 2 pieces of information don't agree with that. Okay, I need to go and figure this out now, you know. And it's that kind of skills. What's the other thing? Kind of critical thinking skills. Thinking. It's probably a very big portion of my day is thinking. It tires me out. So yeah, what else? We've talked about communication and relationship building. Those are very, very important. In fact, I've put those at top of my list because you know what? Person who can communicate and build relationships, I can work with, and I can teach you how to do a process flow, and I can teach you all the rest of it. You know, so yeah.
I'd also add like being able to document and prototype things, and like when you get deep into requirements, it's really handy to be able to mock up what you mean, to show people what that's going to look like in the flesh. You know, if it could be an application, could be an online thing, could be whatever. But people that are good at drawing pictures and rich pictures and putting stuff together, that's a really good skill as well.
I think, Paul, you also mentioned in your blog that business knowledge is a very important key skill as well. However, I think it's kind of a very broad term. Could you please be a little bit more specific?
Okay. So I'll explain it by way of referencing my coaching. So very often people come to me and they'll say, I want to be a business analyst, and they're looking for a business analyst job. And during the coaching, kind of unpack and say, you know, you're quite the expert of where you are. You know, you might be an expert in a call center. You might be an expert at a hospital or something like that. And my thing is that you've got all that business knowledge in that particular field. Why not look for a business opportunity where you are working, business opportunity where you are working? Now, fully accept that in some cases that's not possible, but it's probably a lot easier to get into another company that uses BAs with your business knowledge when you're getting out in your first looking for your first BA job, and then you move across. Now, I'll give you an example of this. I coached a lady 3 years ago, and she came to New Zealand, and she had studied her master's, but and she was working, and she couldn't get a BA job where she was. So she moved across to another government department with the base skills that she had, continued working there, but within 6 months of her working there, she got an opportunity to be a BA. And so she just used her business knowledge to move her across. I can tell you a lot of people move over across into business analysis because of the business knowledge, because they're a subject matter expert in what.
That's exactly right. That's the 100%. The number one way to get into business analysis is to get invited onto a project team because you've got a deep knowledge of the business. Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah.
Reinforcing what you said.
I think we have quite a lot of questions left, and we have a audience statistic in the chat box that we ask Paul and Phil to pick one question that they would like to answer. We can do it that way. We just bring up that list.
Sure. Okay. Shall I go first? Phil, do you like working with Paul? Yes, I do like working with Paul. Like we in many ways we have complementary skills, and also, you know, his bark is not as bad as his bark. You know, he's a pretty nice guy, and also he's got a hell of a lot of knowledge in a lot of different things. So yes, I do like working with Paul, and we have a sense of humor, so that goes along.
The nice thing, and this I think illustrates kind of like relationship. And when Phil and I don't agree on everything, but that's fine. You know, we don't need to agree on everything, but we work well because we concentrate on the stuff that we work on well with. Which question shall I answer?
Yeah, quite a lot.
I'm open to bribes.
Should we do? We could do a quick 1 or 2 sentence to another.
Yeah, sure.
Like, because there's obviously
That sounds good. 3 minutes left.
Okay, well, let me answer one. Phil and Paul, can you please reflect on whether you envision yourself reaching your current level of success? Okay, so quick answer to that, no. I mean, I became a BA many years ago, and it was probably about only 7 years into my career that I actually thought, oh, hold on, I'm actually in a career, and then things started to happen. So yeah, I never thought that I would be living in New Zealand. I never thought I'd be running my own business. So yeah, never thought that. But I want to say one thing about, and I'm going to coaching mode now. But I want to say something about success. Success is not money. Success is not a title. It's not a position. It's not a role. It's a journey. Okay, so what I mean by that is that when you make success a point in time, what happens when you get to there? Are you now next day not successful because you've reached that goal? It doesn't work that way. Success is a journey, so we're constantly growing, constantly achieving, constantly moving forward.
Lifelong learning, and the other thing is in IT, what. So one day you're the master, another day you're the student. You learn that in IT. You're never going to be an expert in everything. So humility is a big part of the job. It's understanding when you can help people, but it's also understanding when to listen and be quiet and to just absorb what's going on. Is it my turn?
It's your turn.
What are some of the roles that can lead to BA easier? Okay, so we've said a few there before. We said sort of marketing, customer services. Lots of people come over from the business. Heaps of people do that. I came over from the other side. I was a developer, so I came in sort of from underneath as opposed to from the side or from above. But there's so many different avenues, to become a BA. I've known an artist become a BA, a really good BA as well, really creative, really detailed as well, like really understood stuff. Lots and lots of different careers that financial services is another really common entry. Banking, because a lot of you use a lot of BA skills, day to day, doing transactional type work and doing bank tellers, that kind of thing. Have lots of BA skills. But as I said before, the ones that seem to do really well as a people that show people around, and there just seems to be this relationship with people that do sort of frontline jobs, for example, and lead teams, make great BAs as well.
Yeah.
Right, go Paul.
Yeah. Actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to answer two questions quickly. But so the first one: how do you plan your career when you plan? What are your priorities? The first thing, okay. So for me, I kind of look at say what's the big thing happening at the moment in the market. So for me, at the moment, AI and ChatGPT, that's a big thing for me. So and cybersecurity. So I'm on this year on a big learning curve on that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that's kind of in terms of planning my career. Again, kind of going back to what we're talking earlier about: know your value, know your gaps, know how you're going to increase your value. That's a quick answer. The other one I just wanted to answer because I can, is my working experience was about product requirements and design, but our product was not information system at all. Do I stand a chance to get a BA job? Absolutely. We said earlier, business analysis is not about IT. I wasn't in IT, and for my sins and upsetting someone, I was put straight into an IT BA job without any background in IT back then. But I know a lot of BAs that have got into without any IT background. Some of the projects I work on today are not IT related. They're purely business related, doing sort of like an analysis of the organization and what needs to change in the organization. So, and this is why I get frustrated when people start labeling BAs as an IT BA or a dynamics BA or this kind, because it's not that. Business analysis, and you read the book, BABAP, and you read any business book, it's about the job of facilitating change, and that change might involve IT and it might not involve IT. And now I've spoken too much. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Phil, as well. I think yeah, we have a lot of inspiring thoughts and ideas on how to work on our own plan to transition into BA. And unfortunately, time is up already. We're 2 minutes over. I would like to thank you both for your tips and expertise and experience to sharing with us today. Your knowledge has been very invaluable, and we're grateful for the time and effort you put into this event. And for our audience, I encourage you to reflect and share your thoughts, your plan, and your learning progress, your feedback on our Google document. The link is posted in the chat box as well. Your feedback will be very, very valuable for us for our future events planning. And also please follow us on LinkedIn, Meetup, and YouTube. This video will be shared on YouTube as well. And stay tuned for our future events. So we have one scheduled on the 31st of March. It's going to be another very interesting topic. We have quite a few lined up until May, actually, so make sure you stay tuned. It's going to be very, very exciting. Yeah, once again, thank you all for joining us today. I hope you all enjoyed the event and have something to take away. So yeah, we wish you all the best for the future endeavors and then can transition into BA, get your dream job as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Great session.
Thank you.
Cheers.